In this video, I'm going to be talking about the new Timp 4s from Altra. And if I had posted this review yesterday, I would probably have to take it back down today. And we'll find out why in a little bit. My feelings about the Timp 4s have been a real roller coaster from the very beginning. I remember seeing some early video of the shoes at maybe like a trade show or something where Altra was showing them off and thinking that the redesign of the Timps looked pretty wild with the mesh overlays on the front of the midsole, with the drainage ports on the side of the midsole, just a really built up look overall, the very unique pull tab design on the back of the heel. Just a lot of things about the shoe that stand out and make it look interesting, to say the very least. And I was pretty excited about it. I had run in the Timp 2.5s. Hard to remember for sure now. Anyway, and I liked those shoes. They had a little bit of a lack of volume in the forefoot around the toes for me, but they worked. They worked for a few hundred miles, and I pretty much wore through the outsole before I gave up on them. I think I might have worn through the upper a little bit too, but they were good shoes for me for the summer, dry days, and trying to get in some miles. It was when they had the Quantic midsole, and that felt right. They were a little bit lighter than the first versions of the Timp, and had a little bit more of a snug fit. And yeah, so I was excited for a comeback after some of the delamination issues of the Timp 3. I never tried those shoes just because the quality control seemed like too big of an issue there, but the Timp 4s seemed like they were built to last, so I thought as summer volume started to ramp up that I would give these a try to kind of cycle back and forth between them and my Lone Peak 6s. So after my initial thoughts, seeing the Timp 4s in other people's hands in videos online, it was not an easy choice for me to pull the trigger. I've felt so good in the Lone Peak 5s and Lone Peak 6s that I didn't know if I could really justify the increased price of the Timp 4s. They're about, I think they're $20 more expensive than the Lone Peak line. But the added stack height, it eventually won me over. I was back and forth, putting him in a cart for checkout online and then taking him out again, and then putting him back in again and then taking him back out again. But eventually I did pull the trigger, and let's see, my Timps made it to me right like in the latter third of April. So I think my first run in them was on April 19th. Right out of the box, I have to admit that I was a little bit underwhelmed. Since I bought the Timp 4s for added stack height, I really expected them to be more comfortable on my feet right away compared to the Lone Peak 6s. It's my first time in an Altra shoe with the Ego Max midsole, except for trying on a pair of Torins in a store. And, you know, I wanted it to be a little bit softer of a ride. The good news is that at least they felt really fast out of the box for being a little bit heavier, especially after the Lone Peaks dropped some weight between the version 5 and the version 6. The Timp 4s are not a light shoe, but as soon as I put them on and hit the trails, they they really just felt like they wanted to go. So I had kind of mixed feelings in those first several runs of like never having had to break in an Altra shoe before and really feeling like that wasn't what was going on in terms of kind of the, just lack of softness, I guess, that I was expecting and that I was feeling. But on the other hand, some things to really enjoy about them. Yeah, I guess I would say about the midsole that right away it did feel like I could just run straight over rocks and roots. I didn't have to pick my steps nearly so carefully as I feel like I do in the Lone Peak line, and especially in the Superiors that I've run in before. It just took a lot more unevenness, sharpness, and like a heavy hit for me to feel things at all in the new Timp 4s, which in some ways was really great. People have talked about them lacking ground feel a little bit, and at first I was kind of on board with that, and after running in them a little bit more, I really felt like, no, that like they feel pretty good as a trail shoe. I feel comfortable in them, kind of knowing what's going on and being able to feel the trail through my feet and not have to make all my choices just by visuals. So mixed feelings at first, for sure, but optimistic, hopeful. I guess mostly I was hopeful that they would turn out all right. As I had the Timp 4s longer, I really started trying to put them through their paces. I was getting a lot of vertical gain and have been really almost every week since I got the Timps, running up and down West Glacier Trail, up to the snow line and back down, running a couple thousand feet up Mount Roberts in them. They started to grow on me more and more. The traction, a lot of people have said they felt like, Max Track outsole gets kind of a bad rap, and I don't really buy into that. The rubber compound works for me. What people have said, though, about the tread pattern on the Timp 4, I have to agree with. It does leave a little bit to be desired. And when you compare it against something like the Lone Peak 5, same outsole rubber compound, theoretically, it's got the same name, but the traction is definitely not as good. So the trail claw lug pattern on the Lone Peak line definitely has a clear advantage over the tread pattern on the Timp 4s. On the other hand, I was on some slippery wet rocks and some slippery wet roots on and off of ice and snow and doing some big climbs and big descents. And I had to be really careful a couple of times. But really, I felt like I could go pretty much anywhere I wanted to go and that things would work. The Timp 4 works in a wide variety of environments. And by about 120 miles in the shoe, I noticed a couple of things that really were getting me pretty pumped about the purchase and feeling like I could even see myself buying another pair of Timp 4s. I think I like them enough that I would continue to use them for longer days. So the thing that really won me over to the Timp 4s in the end was that I felt like I discovered that the Ego Max material is prone to getting a lot firmer in cold weather. And with temperatures finally starting to come up out of the 30s, where I could even be doing a morning run at 6 a.m. and have the temperature be over 40 degrees and my feet are finally able to like warm up the shoes a little bit from the inside instead of, early on when I was running a lot of temperatures in the 20s. So it really started to soften up. And I don't think it was a break-in thing. I really think it was due to the temperature. So all of a sudden in the last 2 weeks, I'm running a lot of trails, and especially if they're not super technical. I just am able to finally just cruise in the Timp 4s, other people who have been running in the shoe have talked about, that they really are a pretty good trail cruising shoe, and they serve a purpose. And so I was all ready to like finally get this review out that I've been working on. You know, obviously with well over 100 miles in the shoe, I've already been thinking about things that I could say about the Timp 4s, you know, since 3 weeks ago. And I was like, all right, the Timp 4s are, you know, I have something I can say positive about the role that I can see them playing for me. And, you know, now's the time to get this review posted. But fortunately, I didn't speak too soon. All right, I'm gonna try to get the camera to focus on this. So it really didn't take too long before the kind of webbing, the cloth webbing on the outside of the midsole that's there to keep debris from getting into these drainage holes and is still doing its job, started to have this kind of cosmetic peeling, this wear down here at the bottom. And I've been meaning to trim things off there for a while and never really gotten around to it. But, you know, that was just kind of one sign that, you know, maybe the materials in the shoe, as much as they feel like they're built tough, the shoes feel like they're supposed to be tough when you're running in them, maybe weren't quite up to the quality standards that you could hope for. And then comes today. I was out on the Treadwell Ditch for the first time this year, a trail that's notorious for beating up shoes, but I've had the Lone Peak 5s and Lone Peak 6s out there a bunch in the last 12 months, and they've been holding up fine. I've been enjoying that trail a ton more. It's had a lot of work done on it right by Trail Crews in Juneau in the last couple years, really. A lot of new bridges going in. And as far as a place where you don't have to climb up a mountain to rack up some miles, there's hardly any better trail in Juneau. So it was really exciting to be out there today. Shockingly still a lot of snow on the trail, but also miles of clear stretches in between the places where there's snow. So I was out there with a friend, had an awesome 11.5-mile run, and got back to the car to discover this. The upper of the shoe is just ripped clean through on the side. And you can maybe see on here that there's some overlay at the back that wraps almost all the way up to the front. And there's the toe bumper with its overlay that comes back here towards the middle. And then there's this little patch in between. And right there, it's just gone. And not only on the outside, but you know, there's a kind of an inside liner kind of mesh material in there too. The other shoe is not as bad, and so I don't know if you'll be able to see it as clearly there, but there's pretty big holes, definitely big enough to start letting some debris, rocks in and stuff like that on that side too. And it will probably just be one more run before it's got a hole in it the same size as the other. So that happened totally without me knowing during the run today. And it's kind of a shocking deal breaker bummer for me. Like I said, I was really starting to get excited about the Timps. I felt like, you know, finally I had figured out how they were going to work for me, and you know, just to pull them off my feet at the end of the run and look down and see that hole there was like, oh man, you gotta be kidding me. As I reflect on the upper of the shoe, it really has some qualities that, it's kind of a rough material, and with snow, small twigs, little rocks, just rough trail, it rubs on things and things rub on it, and that is pretty premature breakdown, I think, by anyone's standards, to hit that point of coming apart completely at 160 miles. The midsole still feels great. The outsole rubber is definitely also getting worn down pretty prematurely in some spots, but still was giving me plenty of traction on a lot of trails. Actually, I might try to get some B-roll of this outsole tread, just to kind of give an idea of what happened there. Anyway, wasn't expecting the sun to come out just now. I kind of feel like things are maybe getting a little bit hard to watch in that regard with the sun shining on me while I'm out here. So I'll kind of wrap up thoughts just to say, man, I wanted to like the Timp 4s. I really got there, but quality control strikes again for Altra and the Timps. This time it's not the overlays peeling off, it's where they're missing from the shoe. It's just not gonna work. Maybe in a place where you knew you were never gonna be on rough terrain, you could pay $160 for these shoes and feel like you were gonna get what you expected out of them. But for me, I definitely did not get what I was expecting out of them. I hoping for at least 200, maybe 300 more miles out of these shoes before I had to retire them. So yeah, that's my thoughts. They're not that fun in the end, but I hope that this information can be useful to people. It could save you $160, or save you 20 by pushing you back towards the Lone Peak line, or trying something out, maybe from Hoka or one of the other brands that has some shoes that are similar to these Timp 4s. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope that helps some people out, and hopefully we'll be back out on the trails enjoying it in a different pair of shoes soon. Be safe. Peace.